Hello, dear listener. Marty here. Just at the top of this episode, I wanted to just deliver the news that Jackie has decided to quit the podcast. So she will no longer be with us, and it will just be me going forward. I don't feel it's appropriate to really get into too much of the details of why this happened. I think at this point we just want to kind of keep things positive and keep things moving forward. I'm really looking forward to continuing to interview these great guests and just deliver this really interesting information that people seem to be really enjoying. I know that a lot of people kind of were very generous with their comments about what, good chemistry Jackie and I had and getting to see a little bit of our friendship. I'm sorry to see her go. We'll all be sorry to see her go. Oh, hey.
I made it.
I thought you quit.
No,
Oh,
not yet.
okay. It's good to see you. How are you?
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I'm good. I'm good. I'm clean. All is well. I'm prepared to. This is like a double Marty day. It's so special.
That took me a second. You're coming to the concert tonight.
Yeah.
We're very excited. Do you know that we sold out and had to stop selling tickets?
Oh my God, Slay! That's amazing.
That's all I do, JB.
Mm.
So I think, we're just going to be kind of letting people in and standing room only and just kind of hope that our friend the fire marshal doesn't show up.
Nah, it's the jazz. The jazz entice people. It might be the fact that there's wind instruments involved. You know what I'm saying?
Glorious segue, Jackie. Man, this is why Jackie hosts a podcast.
Listen, I love chorus. I love singing. I had my 7th grade band sing a concert F the other day to get our pitch going. And they were like, what the fuck is going on? And I was like, we're singing, because if you can't sing it, you can't play it.
Oh, I love when instrumental conductors do that.
Yeah, you have to do it. You have to do it. Necessary. It's a necessary evil. But I wouldn't call it
so
that.
One of these days with my choir, I'm just going to pass around a shit ton of recorders and say,
yes.
if you can.
Okay, now match
You can't sing it if you can't play it on a recorder.
Nope, that's right. Vice versa. So true. But yeah, I'm doing well on this fine, this lovely.
Oh, it's a beautiful day on the East Coast.
It is, except for the fact that there's just sinkholes opening up everywhere.
Yeah, I actually drove through the new one on 287 like a couple hours after it happened last night.
Like you didn't fall into it, but you almost did.
What?
No, I'm genuinely concerned now that when people are driving or myself that what happens?
So why this is happening for the non-Jersey folks.
Oh yeah.
Because our listeners are all over the world.
All over.
In vast number, which is so thrilling. Number 1 podcast in America. Don't look it up.
Don't Google it.
All of these major highways in New Jersey and roadways were built over old mines, over old mine shafts.
Super smart, guys. Really.
And then some of these mine shafts were used as waterways, so they were flooded, and then all of the ground is kind of slowly receding underneath them, and that's why we're getting all these sinkholes. That's what the government's telling us.
I think the weird shit is the fact that as soon like the sinkholes and the drones, like it's coinciding, or like we haven't heard about the drones in a while.
The drones were just a distraction from the stuff that was going on over the summer.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel like I still see one every now and then, like flying around, but no one
always flying around because people just fly their drones around.
Yeah.
It's a crazy time to be a Jersey boy and a Jersey girl right now, is our point.
Weird. It's really weird times. For many reasons, not just the sinkholes, but crazy time to be an American, that's for sure.
Sinkhole is going to become the new like derogatory slur for Jersey people. Like, oh, that guy's a sinkhole. He's from Jersey.
Yeah. That's true. That's so true.
So we have that to look forward to.
As if the armpit of America wasn't all like the slur. Like,
it's great to be from Jersey. Shall we let in our other Jersey girl here?
Yeah. Well, we're
now Jersey girl.
Yeah, now
because she is the director of bands at Rutgers University.
Like true Jersey girl. If you work at RU.
All right, ready, JB?
Yeah, I'm so ready. Finally get to talk about band.
You finally get to talk about bands. I'm so happy for you, Jackie. This is your day. I'm just going to be the pretty plant in the corner today. Hey, Julia.
Yay.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Hi.
Nice.
Oh my God. Hi, Julia. How are you?
Every time you text me, I just like automatically hear your voice.
I do that too. I know exactly what you mean, Julia.
Oh.
So you two just saw each other recently, right? What was that?
Yes.
Region band, right?
Region band, yes.
North Jersey. Yes. So Dr. Baumanis conducted the North Jersey Region 1, the best region. Region 1. Shameless
right?
Region 1 Wind Ensemble.
Does that mean north? Is that like the north part of it? Okay.
Yes. And it was a fantastic concert. It was really awesome. I loved all the rep. And I looked into it right after. Not that I could ever do it with my own bands, but
it was really hard stuff. I was like, well, if this doesn't work, then we'll cut this one. And now they played everything.
No, yeah, they didn't just play everything, like they played the shit out of it.
Yeah.
Ladies in band.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're talking about today.
We're here.
Is that like the main topic in this Women's Month 2025?
Oh, you know what? I didn't even remember it was Women's Month.
Girl power.
Yes.
This is an accident.
I love that. Oh, this is perfect. This is actually, it'll probably be our last recording of the month. So that's literally perfect.
Yeah, that's true.
That's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, we wanted to bring you on, well, for so many reasons, but one of the reasons is because we've had a lot of different careers so far on this podcast, but we have not had a director of bands. So we can start off with your origins. Marty and I are trying to be more focused.
As my boy cat is
we're
yodeling
not.
in the background, I don't know if you could hear him.
No, I can't hear him. Well, in the last episode Marty and I recorded, my cat was vomiting profusely during the episode. So, and then
Jackie was on mute for like 20 minutes. And me and Peter were just talking.
I was like, okay, unmute. But yes, we want to know, like, I guess, yeah, true, Marty. We're not really focused. We probably never will be. But,
this makes editing.
Let's not deny who we are here.
Yeah, let's not deny our truths. Yeah. But
we're not journalists. This isn't NPR.
No, well, please, come on. I'd say like NPR-esque. So, but yeah, like I guess let's just start there. Where did you start? Like,
oh, gosh,
in this life.
In this life. Well, I never, like, up until I was a junior in undergrad, I was not going to be a band director. I was not going to be a music educator. I was going to run as fast as possible the opposite way. Both my parents are immigrants. My dad was from Latvia. He's passed. My mother's from the Philippines. So you got like somebody this big and somebody this big. And
then you're right in the middle. Good.
Yep. And I just knew that it was really difficult for them. We were an army family. I was born overseas in Germany. I think I was telling Marty that at breakfast.
That's true. We have that in common.
Yeah. So I knew, not that I feel like I wanted for anything. Like I never, like the answer was never no. It was like, maybe let's figure it out financially. But I knew that it was really difficult for them to, make their way over here, start fresh, start from scratch, and then like be able to be financially sound enough to, support me and my two sisters. There's three of us. Wow. So when music was the thing, I'm like, oh, and like, I love my older sister to death. She was never going to go into a field that was like particularly financially stable. And she had like a lot of difficulty in high school. I was really good at school. I loved studying. I loved getting good grades. Like it was like a personal thing for me. Like, yes, I'm going to like nail and ace that test, blah, blah, blah. So like I was you could be the scholarship kid. You could be the kid that goes pretty far with your career and, let's be a doctor. Let's do something fruitful. My mom is a college business professor. So she's
cool.
all about, money and finances and being financially sound. I was in DECA. I don't know if that thing's still around, an Academy of Finance in high school.
Sounds familiar to me.
Yeah. Like anything business and money and like medicine. I was like, that's what I'm supposed to do. And nobody ever told me that. Like, to be fair, like my parents were like, you better not, and you're going to shame the family if you don't. Like, right. But they were excited about the prospect of that, and that made me want to impress them and make them proud. And
Sure.
Now, there was always the music side, and they loved the music side about it. They knew I was really good at it. They knew I was very creative about it. So the deal was like, if you're going to do the music thing, let's look at like what the finances are and everything. And I managed to get like full rides for music. So they're like,
wow,
like do the thing, you can go study. Like we're cool with that. It makes you happy, clearly. And of course, with the scholarships, we can, financially make it happen, blah, blah, blah.
And what instrument did you get scholarships on?
I was a clarinet player in high school, a recovering clarinetist. I didn't like
That's the right way to.
Yeah, like most people love their instrument. I was just good at it. My band director in middle school is like, you're gonna play the clarinet. I'm like, okay. Because people pleaser. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But I wanted to play horn. If I could do it all over again, I'd be like a horn player.
Oh, interesting.
Bassoon, percussion, stuff like that.
Bassoon is lit.
Yeah, my mom wanted me to be an opera singer. I don't know where that came from. But she still thinks it can happen. So there's nothing to back that up. There's no musical vocal performance to back it up. But she thinks it could happen one day. So all that, I went scholarship, clarinet, which like looking back and now being a director of bands, I'm like, you know what, that was kind of like legit. Like everybody and their mother plays clarinet, it's
very competitive.
So I'm like, okay. And I went to Florida State University, which like my clarinet studio had 40 to 60 people in it. There were 2 full-time faculty members and then like a slew of like 10 grad students to teach just clarinet. So when I think about where I got the scholarship from, in what studio I got it in, I was like, okay, like you actually were good at that. So all that made sense. But I still don't want to be music ed. I was going to be like performance, but then I didn't I didn't like the fact that I'd have to be in like a practice room forever. I wanted to go out and like see people and like have fun and do marching band and do all these things that like a true performance major that like wants to win an orchestra position like should not do. I wanted to do all that.
Gotcha.
And so performance, I was like, I'm going to be unhappy with this. So I started exploring musicology.
Oh, cool.
I started exploring music therapy because that's also like a medicine side. And it just never panned out. But what did get noticed is that my college band director, Pat Dunnigan, saw me teaching others and being a leadership person in like these different organizations. And I guess he like looked up my transcript, or it had somehow come up, and he found out that I wasn't a music ed major. And he like cornered me in the hallway. And I yelled at him about it to this day. I was like, you cornered me and you said, you're not a music ed major, change that right now. And he said it in like his very firm, like,
Yeah.
like, okay, yes, sir. And I went and I did the thing, just thinking like, okay, fine, I'll get a job and it'll be what it is, and then I'll figure
What
it out.
major were you before that?
I think I was performance. I never made the switch to musicology or music therapy because
Okay.
switching at that point would have put me behind and I'd have to
Right.
extend years and my scholarship would have ran out.
Okay.
So I was still performance.
Okay.
And he's like, yeah, no, you need to change that. I'm like, all right. So I changed it and I did all the music ed class. I was good at it. I like helping people, fine. But still, I was like, I'm not going to be a poor band director, music teacher. Like, this is ridiculous. But to finish a music ed degree, you have to go do a student teaching semester.
Yeah.
So I went and at FSU, they ask you to put down like 3 of your top choices. I'm like, okay. So I put down places near where my parents lived, which it's not like Jersey where you can kind of drive from one end of the state to the other in a day and like be okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Florida, it takes 12 hours to get out of the state. And FSU is at the top of the state and my parents lived at the bottom of the state. So I'm like,
geez.
okay, for money, let me like try to select some schools that I know are great schools where my parents live at home, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And there was a program, JP Terravella High School, which was like one of the top programs of the state. And I knew the band director there, Neil Jenkins, he was retiring. It would be his last year. And I'm like, I'm not gonna put that down because he's not gonna want to like take care of a person, a student teacher in his last year. Like he's like retiring after like 30 years at the school. And even if he did take on somebody, it's gonna be like, oh yeah, whatever, I'm at the end. So I didn't put it down. And then the head of music ed, Steve Kelly, was like, why didn't you put Terravella down? And I'm like, he's not gonna be great. He's retiring. He's like, I'm putting it down. So like,
So
Pat
he knew.
Dunnigan made me change my major. Steve Kelly made me put down this name of the school.
Yeah.
I wound up going to that school and wound up falling in love with teaching students.
So you've had a couple of sort of guardian angels along the way,
Like, yes,
gently
if
shoving
wanna
you
call
onto
them that, right? But like still to this day, I'm like, you're a jerk. You made me do the thing. Thank you very much. I love you. Thank you for doing
Right,
it.
right.
Also, you're a jerk. No.
Right. Why did you
jokingly-
push me here?
Yeah, I jokingly poke them and say like, you really pushed me to do this and you didn't give me a choice.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that I listened. Like that's kind of like where it is. Because
Do you feel like you needed the push, or do you feel like it just the cards fell that way?
I feel like I needed the push. I had all of these ideas of what it would be like to be a band director. And those are based on me observing some band directors that have had a hard time, that financially have had difficulties. The profession hasn't been kind to them. They haven't been kind to the profession. I, for some reason, also felt like it was, and this is like icky to say, like beneath me. Like, no, like I'm not going to be a band director. Really? Like that's my calling, a band director? When in fact, the people that I admire the most and the people who helped raise me are all band directors and all music teachers. So like I was this high schooler that probably thought she knew everything and didn't, clearly, and needed the push. So they just saw in me that I was a person that was gonna not only make it, but do well. Because I even to this day, now that I teach music ed majors, I can kind of say like, I really hope that student makes it, but I know for the following reasons, they're gonna have a hard time. Or I know that student is going to make it and also be one of the foremost prominent band directors in the state in like 10 years. So like they could do that for me. And when I was just like, I can't see anything beyond the tip of my nose. And I wound up, when Neil Jenkins retired from Terravella High School, taking the job.
Wow.
So like right place, right time, right people to do the right pushes. It was just a big deal. And
what was that like?
It was wild. It was like the last week of school, and there's these little boxes that you can give like a gift card in, like they're like this big, and he's like, oh, this is your present.
Yeah.
And I open the box and it's like a key to the school, and like, this is my key. I want you to apply. It was like more like ceremonial. I wasn't actually taking his key. I had to get hired. Like, ridiculous. This is not a first year band director job.
Right. So this is right out of college then. So you're like 23 years old.
Yeah, 22.
22.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Whoa.
it was a big program. It had 4 concert bands, 2 orchestras, a competitive marching band and color guard, like a medaling world champion color guard program.
One teacher, or did someone do strings as
2
well?
teachers. 2 teachers.
Wow.
But still just 2 teachers.
Two. One band.
Yeah. Well, so the guy that was there with Neil, his name's Sheldon Williams. Him and I are like, he married my husband and I.
That's awesome.
And he moved up into Neil's position. He had been at Taravella for, I want to say like 4 years, 3 or 4 years at that point. And then I moved into Sheldon's position.
I see.
Wow.
So it was us leading this giant thing that Neil had steered for 30 plus years.
And what do you think he just advocated so much for you that they just hired you, or did they do a search and interview people? How did that work? Because that is quite extraordinary.
Yeah, the application opened. I applied. It was sort of like, yeah, we want her, because the hardest thing about a director change at any program, businesses, new management for restaurant, any change is a person that comes in that doesn't know the culture of the program.
Right.
So obviously Sheldon was going to move up because he had been there working with Neil. Yeah. And then they wanted me, who had been there as a student teacher, and how we did it was full time. I was there every single day. And I knew the students and I knew the culture and I was part of it and all that. So they wanted it to be seamless. Right. And there was still bumps. There were a lot of veteran teachers that challenged it. A lot of people who thought they were the heir apparent.
Okay.
To that job.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's really interesting, because I've never actually thought about that before, that if you're student teaching in a year that happens to be a retirement year, then you've got a huge advantage on that job.
Well, I mean, you shouldn't. In my opinion, you shouldn't. You're too young to know. You've taught for like a second. It just somehow worked out. Yeah. I mean, Sheldon also was my husband's band director. Now, my husband and I were not together or even dating at that moment, but the streams of how everything came together.
Yeah, that seems crazy.
Just like worked.
That's great.
And Sheldon used to work at Cypress Bay High School, which is where I went to high school. Mm-hmm. And that's how he was my husband's band director. My husband's a couple years younger. He taught him. So we all know Mike Friedman. I grew up in that county, Broward County, which was one of the largest counties in Florida, if not the largest.
Florida's all about counties, bro.
It's
it's just counties.
I didn't know what a township or a borough was until I was like, what?
I never say like I'm from Essex County. No.
Well,
yeah, that's true. Right?
I don't know what the difference is between a township and a borough. I'm like,
fine. Neither do I. Lived here my whole life.
Have no clue. But yeah, it just all like worked. I don't know. Now we're on the other side of it, and that was 10 plus years ago. Like it all made sense. And those people that were really, it was really like 1 or 2 people. Sheldon and Neil just kept me protected and said, "Do you whatever."
Yeah. Look, so you're 22 years. You're 22 years old. You're walking into this huge established program. What was that first year like? I mean, you're saying you had some support from these people, which is good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I guess with that, I guess also maybe talk about, being a woman stepping into this role too, with 2, older men who had been there a while.
Well, Neil was much, much older than Sheldon. Sheldon and I were closer in age.
Okay.
I think it was great because Sheldon especially knew the culture and bought into the culture. The culture of JP Taravella at that time, I think it's different now, was just a band. Like it was such a historied band of success. And we would host all of the assessments, the music assessments at our school.
I'm going to be looking up this band later, by the way.
If you walk into, and I don't know if it's still the same. I haven't been back since I left. But if you walk into the band room, it was lined with just like trophies. I'm talking like floor to
Yeah.
ceiling, and it's a huge room. And
EOA National Grand Champ.
yeah, well, like
Oh,
National Concert Band Festival, like all like everything that you could do as a high school band, this band has done.
wow.
Sheldon was, a part of that culture and had been there for a little bit. I walk in and I'm all about the culture too. I think it was because we didn't poo-poo everything that Neil did because we believed in what Neil did.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of people were on board because we were on board, but we were a younger generation breathing some like new energy into the culture that already existed. So we didn't try to change anything. Like that's my biggest advice is if you take over a program, regardless of like how long the person prior has been there, like don't change anything the first year. Unless it like legally has to be changed, like don't touch anything, just observe, try to understand, and then the next year start to make moves of where you want to go. And then by year 3, then maybe you could really enact some change that is for the betterment of the program.
Right.
That's what Sheldon and I did. Like we did there. We even had like a strong relationship with the middle school feeders. That was really huge for us. We had a very strong middle school feeder, Ramblewood Middle School, John Nista, who just retired last year. God bless. And then we had Millennium Middle School, which still brought us students, but it was a much different situation than Ramblewood. It was a newer school. The zoning was different. And some of the band parents were not they were friendly, but they weren't like we're best friends. Like they loved Neil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yep.
you have me, which is a 22-year-old young kid, a female, the first, I think the only still, yes, the only still, and the first female band director, Tarabella.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I know the
Awesome, but that's awesome, but also sad.
right. Yeah, I'm like, okay, like, this is ridiculous. But
Yeah,
and you have
okay.
Sheldon, who is this very flamboyant gay black man, and you have Neil Jenkins, who looks the way his name sounds. He's just a salt of the earth white guy that loves to golf.
Yeah.
He looked the same as he doesn't age. I swear he's like an immortal vampire of some sort. He just looks the same as when I was his student.
Yeah.
But some of the band parents were like, just because we were different. They didn't like us because we were different, because we were wanting to push things forward. So like by year 3, there was a change in the parent booster organization. And it's not, I don't think it was anything personal. It felt personal on both sides at the time. But like looking back, it's like, no, it just, the culture in the time, it was just time.
Well, those parent associations in high school are quite a big deal, right? I mean, I remember at mine they were, and there were certain parents who were very involved,
Yeah.
sometimes
They can be
pretty
very
aggressively, and they feel like, they're in charge.
Yeah. Yeah. And I did get some heat. I remember feeling like they don't trust me because I don't have children of my own. So how dare I tell them what to do for their child? You know what I mean? And I still don't have children of my own. So it's like, I've been telling kids what to do for a long time now and with relative success.
Yeah.
But I understand, and I couldn't understand this at the time. I understand now, 10, 15 years later, everybody was just concerned with the best for their child.
Yeah.
Stepping into a position where they're working with someone who's been there a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there can also be challenges there. It's like all in the same
Yeah, I
breath.
want to hear about that first year and just how you felt on the podium
Yeah.
after, probably not too much time on the podium student
Yeah.
teaching, or
Yeah, not too much time at all.
Uh-huh.
Again, I didn't know at the time. Like I was gonna go to Boston University. Like
Okay.
I did like a whole audition. I got waitlisted to go to Yale. I got like I was gonna go anywhere and be anything but what I wound up being. Going to Florida State, I was like, well, I know I'll get into Florida State and I'll get like a full ride. So
Yeah.
yippee. And that's where I wound up, just because like yippee, not understanding that it is an incredibly excellent school of music, one of the top. It's giant, it's competitive. I got to go back and conduct an honor band festival there in December.
Cool.
And I'm just like, how some people are like, yeah, and my alma mater is like go into, hell and all that kind of stuff. And like, there's like not a lot there. And back in my day, now there's no fun. FSU did the opposite. Like they have grown, they have invested in their students. Like it is so good to be proud of like where I went to school.
Yeah.
So at FSU, I got a ton of podium time as an undergrad.
Great.
A
That's
ton.
awesome.
Yeah.
Now that I could see like in comparison to other programs. So I didn't feel uncomfortable on the podium. I had got my own band. That's the luxury of having like a program that's giant. I got my own sandbox to play in and figure things out. And Sheldon, gave me a lot of, like he guided me a little bit, but he also let me fail if I needed to learn a lesson. Like I programmed one year, like music that was way too hard. And I knew it, and I still went with it. And we got they do like superior, excellent, good, fair, poor. I got an excellent, not a superior, which is the top. And we're like, yes. And then we had
For us band people, by the way, Marty like might be a little unfamiliar with this.
Yeah.
So for us band people, it's like a slight punch in the gut.
Yeah,
it's like a little
never
like,
bride.
Well,
Yeah,
this
like,
this sounds just like the Polish education system, where like they don't do A, B, C, D, or whatever. It's like 1 through 6, and it's like you want to get a 6, and if you get a 5, it's a little insulting.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And not that my band that I was in charge of always got superior. Like if that had happened to the wind ensemble or wind orchestra, I think we called it, like it'd be like, oh my God, like alumni would come out of the woodwork and be like, what are you doing?
oh my God.
But it was because I programmed too hard music. But all my mentors who came in and talked to me and listened, let me do what I wanted to do. And then we had a spring concert right after assessment, and I programmed the correct rep, and it was like a showstopper, amazing thing. And then I was like, yeah, I learned my lesson. I learned my lesson about how to program music that challenges them just a little bit so they grow, but isn't so far that they're just going to trip on their way.
Right.
Yeah. Can we back up super quick?
Yeah.
Just that very first time that you were up on a podium in front of players and they were making sound that you were
like
conducting.
The very first time ever.
Yeah. How did that feel? Was that sort of like a light bulb moment for you? Like, shit,
like
this could be for me.
Yeah, was that the calling moment, I guess? Or like, were you like, oh, okay. Like,
or
this
did it need to grow on you?
Yeah.
I feel like I did it in middle school. But it wasn't impactful in middle. It was just cool. But I mean, like, it's also like middle school band sounds. I think where I felt most powerful for the first time on the podium is when I was a high school drum major.
Oh, okay.
For marching band. We were a competitive marching band, and I was drum major for junior and senior year. That was pretty cool. That was a cool experience. And it was the conducting, but it was also like, and I think I got this from my military parents. It was also like telling my fellow students on the bus, like, I'm so proud of you. Look at what we did, holding up the trophy. Or even if we didn't win like national or whatever, I'm like, you know what? This trophy doesn't mean anything. It's how we feel about the performance. So like, talk to me about how you feel about the performance. So I think that's why my band directors were like, you need to be a music ed major. Cause I'd been doing that stuff since high school. And it was, I really like rallying the troops.
Yeah.
You are that person. Like, even from knowing you for a short amount of time, I feel like you're such a champion. Like, I feel like I just met Julia, and at NJMEA, the convention, she shows up at this conducting class thing that I was doing. And I was like, holy fuck, you're not about to see me conduct.
I sat front row.
She sat front row and he videoed it and took pictures. And I was like, but I felt so supported. And that's, I mean, you can't get better than that as a person. Yeah.
I remember being at a conducting symposium when I was in grad school. I went to a conducting symposium, and it was a small chamber one. And so not like a big band or orchestra or whatever, just a chamber group. And a lot of them were community members, older. I remember there being a trombone guy who was like probably retired. And I was working through something, I think it was the Stravinsky octet, and something was just like not clicking. And the conducting teacher said, like, you just need to go for it and like trust, like, what do you want here? And I'd been like trying to be polite, like, well, everybody's doing such a good job. And he's like, no, 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 what do you want here? I was like, I want them to play with my downbeats. And the trombone player goes, atta girl, let's go. Because
the most trombone player thing to ever be said, by the way, as someone who will marry one.
I think he intimidated me quite a bit because number one, he was excellent. And obviously the age thing, I have like such admiration for elderly people and older people. I love working with like older people. I don't know why, I always have been. Like as a kid, my mom's like, you go and hang out with the old people a lot. Like you're an old soul. It's like they're just cooler and they have better stories.
That's my experience with this community band I conduct that I was telling you. They're all like old.
I love it though. Like
they're amazing.
In a retirement community, yes. Cause like I just want to like listen to your stories and all the stuff you went through. Like there's so much about that I respect. But he freaked me out because like I wanted to earn his respect and he just wanted me to be direct, not a jerk about it.
Right.
But like just, and so there's a way to deliver the message that will help with the technique.
Yeah.
And if you're not weird about it, like you need to stop and smell the roses here. And just pretend like you're in a market in Paris. And they're like louder or softer.
Now, see, what's so interesting though is
that's with my baton. Breathe with me. Breathe together, play together.
That's a more effective way to talk to a choir. And I have grown into this enormous curiosity and fascination and love for these sort of cultural differences between like how you ought to be for a choir versus an orchestra. And then maybe I'll learn something about what it is for a band. And I have, similar sort of experiences. Like when I was at Berkeley as a film scoring major, they taught you to be, because the sessions cost money, right? And a ton of money every single second. So there's no time to stop and sort of, wax philosophic about what's going on for 30 seconds. It's like if you're stopping, you need to give one direction, maximum two directions, and get back into the music. So we're recording. So I was kind of, trained that way from the start with orchestras to just say what I need, shut my mouth, and give the next downbeat and keep going. And then later on, when I got into choirs, it was actually really interesting. There was, at some point, there was an older mentor who said to me once, you can't talk to the choir the way you talk to an orchestra. And I said, well, what do you mean? They're like, well, it's just a bit of a different beast. It's instruments, it's voices, it's a bit of a dynamic. Choirs respond better if with some of the imagery and a little bit of the more poeticism. And I find those sort of cultural differences between these ensembles really interesting. And then when you go back and forth,
so I do bands at Rutgers, but I have my professional orchestra.
Yeah, exactly.
So I thought there might be some code switching. I think it's circumstantial based on the ensemble period. Don't delineate between is it band, marching band, orchestra, choir, show choir, opera.
Yeah.
Like I think it has to do with the culture of the group.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
There are some, like when my in-laws, they're at the Villages in Florida, the largest retirement community in the world.
I've heard of that place.
Yeah, they're not the weirdos. They have like their cool group of friends that they hang out with. But
there's a lot of lore about that area.
And a lot of that is very true. But they don't play into it. They just go and they're playing golf and they weave baskets and it's cute. But I go and my father-in-law plays in a community ensemble and I've gone up there at the request of him and done some rehearsals and they're all about it. And they like when I say things in metaphor.
Oh, see, interesting, cool. Yeah.
So I remember we were working on some sort of like film score and there was like a part that really was quiet, almost like pizzicato strings, but for a wind band. And it needed to sound like it was a tiptoe. And I'm like, how many of you were in the military? And like everybody said, boom.
Oh, there you go.
And I'm like, okay, Army brat. Both my parents were in the military, and my father was a first sergeant in the Army, and he had 3 girls, and all the men go, "Oh, dang." I was like, yeah, right. So imagine me as a younger girl watching my older sister try to tiptoe out of the house around my Army parents. And they're like, "Oh," I was like, "Your volume needs to sound like my sister not wanting to get caught."
Yeah, I'm stealing that.
Texas.
That's awesome.
My band at Rutgers, they like the occasional story metaphor as long as it translates to musically what we're trying to do.
Sure.
I feel like the super verbose conductors, they're just talking and talking and talking and talking, and it takes too long for them to get back to how does this relate to the music.
Yeah, that's
So when
ego, I think.
say,
More than
like
anything.
you need to sound like you're smelling the roses here. I was like, okay, but like musically,
Right.
How does that translate?
That
So
means
is smelling more bow or less bow? How
right,
do I?
or is it more
Like-
buoyant? No, like is it moving along? Is it slowing down because you really want to stop and smell the like? There needs to be okay. Take this information and translate it to
Sure.
Make it technical.
I could see a cultural difference in choir because there is text most
Right.
of the time.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
And we as instrumentalists have to connect the dots a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like a physical
now.
blowing into something or hitting.
This chord sounds like pain, whereas in choir, the word might actually be a synonym for
right.
pain.
Right.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean,
Well, I
there's
guess-
yeah.
Oh, no, sorry. Finish your sentence.
No, and it's just that. I mean, and we don't have the added thing like opera has props and staging, and
Costume.
marching band has props and staging.
Yeah.
Like concert band and orchestra, we don't have that. It is
Right.
just audible sound, and you have to tell a story of some
Yeah.
sort
Right.
to get
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So I guess going back to, so you had your time at this high school, and how long were you there?
I was there for 5 years.
Okay.
Not
So
long.
I guess in that 5 years, it's like a decent amount of time
Yeah.
though.
That's
That's a lot. That's it. Like I've been teaching, this is my 5th year teaching, and I feel like there's so much that happens in the first 5
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
So those were your first 5 years. Obviously it sounded like it was like a really incredible experience for you. You learned a lot. You had a great time. What was the next step for you, or well, where did you go after? What did you do? Did you go right to your master's? Because obviously you're a doctor, so you went and got your doctorate at some point. But what led you, I guess, to leaving the like to not do the career public school? Because there's so many educators who, are 20, 25, 30 to life.
My instinct for going to grad school was it was a very unique situation. I got this fabulous first year job that no first year teacher you would assume would get, right? So I learned a lot and I had a ton of resources. I had numbers. Like a lot of programs do not have that size of program, that and many ensembles. I was doing stuff that like people hope they get after 10 years building a program. It was already built for me, and I just got to like play around and learn a lot.
That's awesome.
When I realized that I had a checklist of all the things I wanted to do. Boom, did it. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, checklist done. Do I need to add to the checklist? Yeah, I add a little bit more, but those got done very quickly as well. I'm like, okay, so year 2, checklist done. Year 3, checklist done very easily. I knew that in order to add more to what I wanted to accomplish, I needed to figure out like what more was out there.
Yeah.
And my biggest piece of advice to undergraduate music students is like, this degree will not teach you half of what you need to know.
Thank you.
It is
Thank you
impossible.
for saying that, because I say it to, I'm still in the beginning. I consider myself still in the beginning of all of this. But I have, I've met people who are younger than me, who are just starting. And one friend I have in particular, like I keep telling her, like, school is this perfect place. It sets you up for, I mean, maybe not for some people, but it's supposed to be. It's supposed to set you up for this ideal situation. You're in your music ed classes and they're like, okay, you're going to make this fantastic lesson. And then you actually try and do the lesson in front of real kids.
Yeah.
And you try to have a rehearsal and they're talking for 40 out of the 50 minutes of your rehearsal and you're managing their behavior.
Yeah.
That's what it really is. So and you cannot learn that. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, you can't, and nobody should be telling undergraduate students like you should be ready to do the following. Like the truth is you're never going to be ready. You're going to gain as many tools as you can to put in your toolbox to go to a program and start like hammering away.
Right.
And every program is different with different issues, different needs. So you're going to use whatever tool you have that fits the best. And when I decided to go back to grad school, it's because I ran out of tools to use. I'm like, I can do this checklist thing every year and it's going to be great. And the kids are having a great experience, but I'm already looking for like, what is next?
Yeah.
So my advice to people who are teaching, but are like, what is next? Do as much as you physically can with your situation at that present moment. And when you've proven to yourself that you can, and you did all the things, but you're not like quite ready to know like when to jump to like grad school, like go to conducting symposiums.
Yeah.
Just like a little bit of knowledge to like get like your brain thinking in a different way other than just like I'm surviving from day to day. Ooh, a phrase. We did a phrase. Like go and get like, it's kind of like going and getting like, I don't know, like a checkup or a tune-up. Yeah. Like your car's going to run a little bit better and a little bit nicer and it's going to feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think I wanted to be a college band director, but I know in order to be a college band director, you have to get a doctorate.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
That's just how it is now. Like a lot of job posts will say like masters, or PhD or DMA preferred, masters required. If there's a person with a doctor, they're going to go with the doctorate every time.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, let me just see. So I put out applications to all of those programs that everybody wants to go to. And like, those programs are famous, I think, because of the teachers who are there.
For sure.
But those teachers are so famous and so well regarded that a lot of them are never around because their job takes them, to Singapore, to here, to there. They're just like,
right.
Their own career is so vast.
True.
And they have these giant studios and like, if you can make a really good connection with them, it's going to yield you a ton of reward. But in the same breath, there's like 30 people like vying for their attention. And I didn't want to leave the people that like raised me, basically, the FSU crew, to go try to become a favored grad student in a studio with all I didn't want to. So I applied and it broke everybody's heart that I applied because I had asked them all to write me letters of recommendation. I was like, done again. Please don't hate me, but can you write me a letter for UT and Northwestern and Michigan? Yeah. And I got into a lot of those schools.
Of course.
And I decided, I forget which one said it. It was either Rick Clary or Pat Dunnigan. And I decided to stay at FSU. And I said, so I've decided to stay. I think it was Pat. He goes, really? Thought you were leaving us. I was like, no, I'm gonna stay if you'll still have me. And he's like, good.
So how did it feel kind of stepping into the university role? What were some of the main differences that you felt right away?
This is my second university job. My first university job was at University of Central Missouri. Go Mules. I'm not even kidding. My marching band was the Marching Mules Snouts Out.
Marching Snouts Out.
I'm looking over here because I have like a little photo.
Shout out to the Marching Mules. I don't even know. So listen to this podcast.
You wanna talk about like just like good salt of the earth kids.
Yeah.
Wow.
I keep on looking because I have like their picture over here.
No, that's
I love that.
Yeah, that was my first college gig. I turned down, I had a choice. I had a lot of offers, which was really cool.
Nice.
I turned down a pretty big position at a pretty big university in the Big Ten. And people thought I was nuts. but it's because they were taking a spousal hire and both of them left the university and they're smashing it into one, and they didn't want to pay me a ton of money because they're like, well, she's a first year college
Oh,
professor. She'll be able to like make it. She just wants a job.
Oh,
And I didn't really want that job. It didn't have enough conducting for me. And I also thought the pay was too low for the amount of work that it was
right.
going to take.
smart.
It's a very prestigious place. People were very shocked. But I chose UCM because of one guy, Anthony Purcell. Anthony Purcell is the director of bands there. I was the assistant director of bands, and Anthony was just like the people that taught me and the people that I worked with Taravella, the ones that raised me at FSU, like he was of that same vein.
Mm.
He's like, I want to be your guide. I understand what it's like to go from public school teaching to college teaching, and there's so many weird politics that nobody ever talks about. I want to do this with you. I don't want you to be my assistant. I want to like team teach everything. And like he
Awesome.
was a man of his word. Like
Wow.
my first year, we got accepted to play at the state conference, and I was there like conducting the opener.
That's so
Like
cool.
he was
Great.
crazy supportive. His family, Liz, his two kids, Tim, their dog Henry passed away yesterday. But Tim and Jordan,
No.
I got to see his kids like grow up. Like they were just such a good family for Adam and I
Yeah.
to like get connected with. We both left UCM. He's now teaching back in his home state,
Mhm.
Northwest University, and killing it. And like you want to talk about somebody who like is a people under like a person that really understands how to advocate. Like he was like the person that taught me about the value of joining things like your local city's Lions Club
Yeah.
and like going to talk to people in the community that have nothing to do with band. And because of that, the president and his wife, Roger and Robin Best, who I'm Facebook friends with from the university, came to all the band concerts, the marching band thing. They follow me on Facebook and comment on my stuff. The provost would take us out to breakfast. Like he
Good
really
community, yeah.
understand. Yeah, he really
Really
understands.
important though. Like I'm glad you're highlighting that need like in this field, but I feel like in any educational field, you need that.
Yeah. Well, and he did it in a way that was genuine too, because like I can see like a lot of people trying to do that and it comes off as like sleazy politician, like I'm only here to
Mhm.
talk to you because I want something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was personally invested in everybody's family, in our success. Like he gave his heart all the time.
Yeah.
And that's why people gave them his trust or gave him their trust and everything like that. So it was such a good choice. We lived in the middle of freaking nowhere.
I was gonna say, like, what is
Yeah.
that? What is Missouri like?
Orangeburg, Missouri. So we were an hour door to door to Kansas City. Kansas City is really cool. It's very small.
Hmm.
I didn't realize how small it was until we had moved here, and then I was asked back to do like an adjudication thing or whatever.
Yeah.
And I went to Kansas City. I was like, oh my God, this is so tiny compared to New York. It's so
Yeah.
such a little baby city, but it was very nice. Saw the Earth Kids. It was hard for me to leave because I left in the back end of the pandemic when everybody was still virtual. So like my students at UCM, a lot of them are from rural communities. A lot of them had families who were farmers and livestock keepers and all that kind of stuff. And they would talk to me and try to explain to me about farm internet because we were talking about, well, how are we going to do these virtual classes? And they're like, I don't know, Dr. B, I have farm internet. I was like, what the hell does that mean? They're like,
What is farm internet?
it's an Ethernet connection that is terrible at best.
Yeah.
So what we did for a couple students, we lived in this awesome, dirt cheap, but beautiful historic loft, exposed brick. It would be like $1 million in Jersey.
Wow.
I'm sure.
And it was like $2 a month. On top of like the city's, like the coffee shop in the downtown area. Downtown was a block, one block.
Yep.
And we were on the second floor and at 3 bedrooms, every bedroom had a walk-in closet. We had this like 2 wine fridges. It was just ridiculous. But we had this stupidly long staircase that was like, that staircase could have spanned like 3 condos. And I'm like, okay, I have Wi-Fi, really good Wi-Fi. So
Yeah.
if you need to come sit on my staircase because we're still social distancing and we don't know what the hell COVID is, blah, blah, blah.
Oh my
Sit on my
God.
stairs, here's a pillow for your butt. Do your stuff. Yell at me if you need water. I'll leave it at the top. Run away. Grab it. I'll spray some shit. So like I do that for my kids. Some of them that
Wow.
really like didn't have a choice. A lot of them quit school. Like it
Jeez.
was really difficult. A lot
You're
of
a
this-
special person though. Like,
Well,
who
you
the
all
fuck
would do
would
the
do
same.
that?
You all are teachers too. You would do the same. It's
I would do the same.
yeah,
But-
and
Like, amazing.
what's nuts to me is like the small universities and small schools like really got damaged during the pandemic and never recovered. Like so many of my students, I had a kid that was in the wind ensemble trombone. Both of his parents died during COVID, and he was taking care of his
Oh,
brother
man.
and like had to leave. You know what I mean? Because in that community, it was like, no, we could pray it away. And the reason why we had a mask mandate at the university is because one of my music ed students wrote a petition to the president and had everybody sign it. So we were trying to outfit and make sure, like, we were part of the study for like what masks and instruments and were working, and like
Right.
what
Wow.
bell covers were working. I got asked a lot of questions for that national study on bell covers because I had the clarinet studio met for studio class, and I had two clarinetists who had COVID, didn't know it, went to marching band rehearsal, which was outdoors, and our drill, I made the drill so that there was at minimum 6 feet.
Yeah.
Right.
And then they went to clarinet studio class and had the instrument face mask with the hole and had a bell cover over the clarinet and managed to not transmit anything to anybody. So like we were part of this huge study on like how to
Wow.
like safely do this thing when we didn't
Right.
know what vaccines were, and
Yeah,
vaccines,
yeah.
it took them forever to get to Missouri. And so all that to say, it was very difficult for me to leave that position because I was in it with those kids.
I was gonna say, like, that's a deep experience. Like,
Yeah.
COVID for everyone was, I mean, just such a messed up time. But then on top of it, like us in the arts during that time, I mean,
Yeah.
it was and I think will always be an unprecedented time.
Yeah.
Like my friends and I would always say, I'm sick of saying we're in unprecedented times. We're still
know.
saying we're in
We're getting one after
Everything
another
is-
now.
still going.
I truly believe, I forget who said this, and I did not say this, but I took it from some, I forget who it was, otherwise I'd credit them. Somebody said somewhere, we are still in a pandemic, and it's a pandemic of empathy. Like none of
Yeah,
us, the reason why COVID was so bad is because nobody gave a shit about people. It was all for myself, all for protection, and
Yep.
I don't care, or just like, I don't care what your experience is. I don't want to like inconvenience my life and have to wear a mask on this airplane, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
We're still in it because people don't understand, you know, taking away affirmative action, reversing abortion. You know, if it doesn't impact you and you don't understand that experience, you don't have the empathetic maturity to believe them because it doesn't affect you.
Right. Right.
You're here.
We're still in it. And it's one disease, and it's a lack of empathy.
I couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah.
So after that experience, then I guess that wasn't too long ago because it's 2025, and you said you've been at Rutgers for 4 years. 4 years. So coming up on, is this your fourth academic year that's about to end? Okay, and so I mean, obviously, I think it seems like it's been a wonderful experience for you so far. Like you think that, I guess you can't say for sure, but you plan to stay.
Yeah. Well, so, and I tell everybody this, is it the forever job? Maybe. There are things that need to be adjusted for it to be manageable. And it's one thing, and it's just our numbers are giant. Yay. Everybody wants us to have big numbers and recruit.
Great.
Awesome. We're doing that, but we need to have the resources to now support it.
Exactly.
So we're on the way. Do I want to be doing athletic pep bands forever? As much as I love them, no, it takes me away from what I think I have a bigger impact I feel like I have a bigger impact when I get to do things like go out to schools and work
Mm.
with high school, middle schools.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a bigger impact with the
Got to
book.
set that up, by the way.
Yeah, for sure.
Going to my school.
Um,
Yeah.
I think I have a bigger impact with the book. I think I have a bigger impact with the orchestra. I've been approached to start a youth orchestra underneath the professional orchestra, and all of that is kind of on hold because the workload of the current position, the required workload of the
Gotcha.
current position.
Yeah.
So if I was a bazillionaire, I'd be like, we need 2 more band directors, and this is what everybody's jobs are going to be so that we can all steer this giant ship, but
Mm.
also be able to have our hands in what we do that's impactful.
Yeah.
That I always want to put the things that make a difference first.
Yeah, of
And
course.
I can
And
put
it,
them a little bit towards the front, but not fully just yet.
yeah.
Right. And there's I guess one, well, sorry, Marty, did you want to say something? There's like one more thing I want to ask Julia about, but you go first. Maybe it's the same thing.
Maybe. So, well, I was just going to say it's an interesting time because now you've been at Rutgers for the same amount of time, pretty much that you were at the high school, and you were talking about how, that first year is kind of observing. Second year, you make some moves. Third year, you start changing. I bet that there are some people listening who might feel unsure, like, would I rather be in a high school? Would I rather be in a university? So now that you've kind of had the same amount of perspective in each program, maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the differences.
Right. I want everybody listening to understand that the college world is not grass is greener.
Mm.
I am very fortunate that I landed in a position at a school like I did
Mm.
at such a young age. There are many of my friends who are in the collegiate world that are kind of like stuck in these smaller programs because to get out of those smaller programs, you have to have great audition videos and tapes and all that you build. But if you're in a school that quite literally doesn't have the resources, especially after the pandemic wiped so many resources out, and like what's happening right now is wiping like you're stuck.
Yeah.
So I feel very fortunate that I am where I am. I don't want people to look at my job and be like, that's college teaching. That is for a select few of us that have been able to make it to, I consider Rutgers band program a mid-size plus program. It's not as large as UNT. It's not as large as FSU. Our marching band is closer to 400 than it is 350. So like it has big-ish bones, and they just need to keep getting bigger. But I do think that's unique. I think a lot of universities took a hit. I got hired at Rutgers, and they told me, we're not sure if you are going to have your own concert band. However, we can guarantee that you're going to conduct this alongside Todd Nichols. And then I showed up, and there was 90 people in a band for me. Something about this place, the kids were really hungry to have live band and live ensembles and concerts, and so
That's really
and we've
cool.
seen that with marching band. We've seen that with the music ed program at Rutgers. So if you are at a high school program right now where you feel supported by your administration, especially in the times that we're seeing right now, like this is going to be the test, right? Is to say like, okay, who's really going to have your back at budget cuts, at policy changes, because universities are going to get hit first versus public schools if they're a public university.
Right.
Because they're bigger and you're in the press and you don't have to deal with parents. So there's like a level of constituents at the high school, middle school, elementary level that can fight for you. At the university level, it's just the students, faculty, and administration. Like the parents can't be involved because of FERPA laws. So again, and I also feel fortunate working at Rutgers because we're in a union state with a pretty strong union that's going to fight tooth and nail for everything. So I have a lot of college friends who are at like mid-sized programs too that are like, we just took down all of our terms off of our website, and this program is being defunded, and this kid that's here on this diversity scholarship can't come back next year, and this is so if you're wondering, should I stay or should I go? I think the one answer that might fit everybody is please look at what resources you have where you are right now. And is that going to support the trajectory of the program where you want to take it?
Yeah.
Or is it working against? And if it's working against, I think that's your will within your realm to like just start looking and seeing what else is out there. But like if you're leaving a pretty good situation, you better be leaving for a better situation. Don't make a lateral move. And like when I say better situation,
that's
it might
pretty
be
subjective. Yeah.
Yeah, it might be like position wise, what you're called. It might be what you're paid. It might be like for your spouse or your partner. It might be for your children. If you have children, for a school area situation, lifestyle change, like there's so much that goes into it. So don't just like read a job description and be like, oh my God, that'd be great. Because like, you don't really know.
Yeah.
You
That's
have to
great
go and
advice.
you have to experience. Yeah.
Jackie, what was your question?
Yeah, I guess the last thing to touch on that we sort of like just lightly touched in the beginning, or we said something about it, is just I guess to talk a little bit about for the lady listeners about and I'm curious too, because I just started, even though I'm a little older, I just found myself in this, in this band instrumental music world conducting. And any advice, I guess, for women in this field, especially in the public school system. I'm constantly just surrounded by men. And it's funny, like we had our NJSMA region like concert band festival this past week, and like me and Amy Wilcox, shout out to Amy Wilcox, she's an amazing person. You know her? Yeah, she's great. She and I were like looking at each other and we were like, we're the only girls here right now. Yeah. And me and my girlies, we do that a lot. We're like, this is, like more power to us. That's great. But it's something obviously that I think over the years has gotten better. I've talked to Dr. Shelley Axelson a lot about this. But I'm just curious, like, what are your views on that? Doc G also spoke about that at the NJMEA convention. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was an amazing.
Jenna Salvo, yeah.
Yep, that was a really great session. And they, I'm sure like you're going to say similar things that I've heard maybe, but I guess for our young female listeners who, I have girls in my 7th grade band who they look at me and, they all call me Batty Burkett, and
I love it.
And, and I hope I provide
Batty, right?
No.
Oh.
Baddie.
Oh,
Marty.
cool. Even better.
Come correct, please. So they, I wonder, like, what's your take on it? What advice do you have? How do we navigate this?
Yeah.
This world.
I mean, like, I wrote a whole damn book on it with my really good friend, Dr. LaToya Webb. It's called Go On, Tell Your Story, Voices of Women Band Directors. And it's
gotta read it.
From the elementary level all the way to retired. Like it's everywhere in between. This is the book.
That's amazing.
Like that.
I'm going to buy it.
It's on Amazon, but I think you get it cheaper on GIA.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. But we wrote the book during the pandemic. And we were tired of, we had gone out for a couple college gigs together, and her and I just knew each other through like running into each other and being the only females at conferences and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And we were always the diversity hire in the candidate pool for these jobs. Like, hey girl, are you a finalist for the, yeah girl, yeah, me too, okay, here's the questions we're gonna ask you, here's the questions they're at. And like, you're not supposed to do that, but like her and I are just like sick of people in the minority being pitted against each other. And that's something that a lot of women in the book talked about. So we talked when we weren't landing, when we were finalists, but not like getting the offers, we talked to a lot of our mentors. All of our mentors are men. Her and I have never played under a female conductor, never had a female teacher, nothing. And all of our male teachers have been fabulous mentors and guides for us. So we talked to a lot of them. We're like, what is it about this situation where we're always going to be in the pool, but never the it? And we're like, well, we just wish there were more women out there applying, but there aren't. And we're like, Wait a second. We know like 1 billion of them. So we put 100 of them in a book together. I
Wow.
put them in a book for you. But it was more than that. It was I think the reason why there are a ton of women out there who are band conductors, who are
Yes.
conductors. The orchestral world has done an excellent job of this under the leadership of Marin Alsop, who has done the Taki Fellowship, has like really brought the forefront with amazing funding for women who want to like get into the orchestral world. There's nothing quite like that for a band yet. There are a ton of band directors at the elementary middle level. When you get to the high school level, they become smaller. When you get to
There's
college level,
less.
they become even smaller.
Interesting.
The college world is 9-1. And that's data from 2016 that we started, and the last time we checked it was 2020, and it's still 9-1. I'd be interested to see where it is now.
Oh, right.
Because there are a lot of us out there at the college world. None of us, there are a few that made it to the director of bands position, not a ton of us. But if the trajectory is what it is, eventually those individuals should flip to a director of bands position. And even if you make it, if you're not at the top, the boss, not a lot of people are going to be listening to what you have to say. You're not in the position of power.
Gotcha.
So my advice to not just the women listening, but also everybody listening is that this is not a woman problem. This is a everybody problem. Everybody is going to teach somebody that identifies as male, female, or other. And you have to show that the podium is a place of safety for all who want to work hard enough to get to it. And the working hard enough is understanding what's required of you as a musician, understanding what's required of you as an artist, but most importantly, in my humble opinion, understanding what's required of you as a leader of people.
Right. Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of conductors forget the third one. That it's not about you, it's about them. If there's not an ensemble in front of you, you're a weirdo waving your arms in a weird way to nothing. Like somebody should call and check on you. My advice is for everybody to put somebody that looks like your students on the podium if you haven't already. If you look at your groups and it's all the same, what does that say about your program, especially in the state of New Jersey where it's so diverse? I can see some grace given like in Missouri where I lived, where like there's really not a ton of diversity in the specific area where I lived.
Yeah, right.
A lot of, I was surprised when I heard that for me and Janet, who is the other conductor for a Region 1 band.
Do you know Janet Kim, Marty?
I remember Janet Kim.
Montclair, there's like a overlap.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, so I was Janet's manager, and that's how one of the managers, and that's how I got to hang out with Julian.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I was surprised to hear that there was some pushback from the leadership of North Jersey when they suggested 2 female conductors.
I didn't even know that, but that grosses me out.
Yeah. And
that's
the person
gross.
that told me that was a man, a progressive man who's just like, I think it's gross too, but you know, we did it. I'm like, well, thank you for pushing for it, because how many times has there been 2 men?
Every time.
And this isn't a knock on men. Like, I happen to love men. I'm married to a very good one. Okay? But it's a knock on all of us. I would say the same thing if it was just women. Like, how are we serving the young men in our group? Or plot twist, how about somebody up there that's non-binary? Or plot twist, somebody who's like up there that looks like the race ethnicity of the students in your group. Like, it, you know what I mean? Like
that speaks to Janet's experience too. She said during one of the rehearsals, how many of you are Korean American or Korean, were born there or born here? And like, you know, so many hands raised. North Jersey, a lot of students were of that background. And she asked and it was amazing though to see that moment, because doing the Viet Quang Diamond Tide, she asked them for metal chopsticks, to bring metal chopsticks. I think it was metal was the material. And they changed Like their demeanor, I mean, they were very dry and focused at first. And, you know, me being one of the managers, I tried to bring some levity and fun to the rehearsal. And they were just like,
well, that's not the culture for many Asians. Me being half Asian, that's not the culture.
Right. And so, but the moment she started talking about the chopsticks and being Korean American and kimchi and and I was like, oh my God, I love kimchi, you know, but they lit up, and then they all started coming up to her and were like, Dr. Kim, I think I have those chopsticks at home. I have and it was such a moment of identification clarity for them. I felt like,
well, and this goes back to it goes back to do you think this personality or having empathy makes you a better conductor? Those kids are now more open to anything musically that you're going to ask them to do.
And they played the shit out of their concert.
Because there's a connection. So I remember being challenged by a conductor who I admire a ton. She's amazing. I was very excited. I got to like finally do a conducting gig with another female conductor. And I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, I get to work with like somebody like me, and like she's older in the field, so I want to just like pick her brain. And I was wearing dark nail polish. And I remember being challenged. She's like, I would have thought that's distracting on the podium. And I used to like not wear nail polish on the podium because I too was taught that's distracting, don't wear jewelry. But I remember one time, I think my second year at Rutgers, I had dark nail polish on. I just forgot to like take it off, and it was just like out of my mind. And I had a student that was going through incredible mental health crisis, like in and out of the hospital. And they came up to me and they're like, I really like your nail polish. I was like, I like your nail polish. What color is that? Bought the color, painted it. The next rehearsal, that kid like was almost gonna have a panic attack and saw my nail polish and was like, fine.
Wow.
I actually really did like the nail polish. It's like, ooh, I'll make a little connection here.
Yeah.
So I told this conductor that story, and they're like, oh, okay. And I didn't feel like super convinced. And then like weeks later, she texted me, and one of the conductors of the New York Phil had black nail polish and like all this like eyeliner on. She's like, I stand corrected.
There you go.
Because the internet loved it.
That's
so
great.
Again, it's just like, you never know what you're going to, like, you have such a responsibility, even if you're not on that podium. If you're a conductor that walks around, even if you don't call yourself a conductor, like, I'm a director, I don't like the conductor, hoity-toity, you still have a position of power.
Yeah.
Like, you have such a responsibility to make sure that there's some sort of connection to everybody in your classroom.
Right.
Because, like, man, the world so needs teachers right now, and it so needs art, and that's what we are. We're teachers of art.
Yep.
And if you don't make sure that every kid that ever thought of being on that podium feels like there's a place for them, do anything. Do something to where like you invite another person that looks like the people in your group up there. Or do something where you invite somebody that looks complete opposite of the students in your group, so that their idea of what a conductor is, when they close their eyes and they say, I see the following characteristics when I think of a conductor, is no longer about what they look like, what their gender is, but it's about a fabulous musician, and that can mean somebody that looks like any of these things.
Yeah.
I used to teach a conducting class at a summer music camp, middle schoolers, and I say the first lesson was, close your eyes and talk to me about, when you look at a conductor, what do you see? Ooh, white hair, crazy like Beethoven. Ooh, the flappy things on their coat, like, those are called tails. Yeah. Oh, they're probably older, and they're mean, they're looking like this. And then I would show them pictures of and videos of all these other conductors who are the opposite of that. And I'm like, so what was the same between what you initially thought and what you, and it's like, well, the thing that was the same was the orchestra. I'm like, oh, so you mean to tell me anybody could be this? Yeah, you have to have good time. You have to stand up straight. You have to say yes or no, but like without saying words. I'm like, that's what we're going to learn in class.
Communicative art.
So it's just, we got it backwards a little bit. It's nobody's fault. Nobody said it has to be an older man with white hair from a European background to be a conductor. Like we didn't set out for that. That's just
no,
like,
of course. This are,
just how we landed.
yeah.
Yeah. But it's like a trampoline. You can bounce back.
Well said.
So well said.
Well, Julia, this is awesome. I think we've taken up too much of your time. We ought to let you
Too
go.
much of your time.
I could talk paint on the wall.
I know. I wish I could. I have to
Amazing.
actually go and conduct a concert myself tonight. So
That I am attending.
and Jackie's
It's going
coming.
Great.
Yeah.
But as always, we love to end our episodes
Yes.
asking our guest to please state your name and what is your job in music.
My name is Dr. Julia Baumanis, and my job as a conductor is to empower the people in my ensemble and the people who are listening to their art.
Wow. The answers get better every episode,
That's
Jackie.
I'm gonna cry, so we're gonna have to get off. I'm like in a very emotional state.
Thank you so much, Dr. Baumanis.
Yeah.
I think this was really, really helpful and informative. I think especially for younger people who would be listening to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody could do it.
And we'll talk, Julia, about coming to my school soon.
Okay, I'm
Like a
beyond
spring
basketball. Hopefully the women lose WNI tomorrow.
All right, we're gonna hope they hope they win, but also hope you lose so you can go. Okay, hope they lose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have a great day. Thank you so much for being with us.
All right,
Thank you,
bye,
Dad.
guys.
Bye.
I do have tears.
Do you?
Yeah, for sure. Just because I think I do the same. Well, I don't want to say I do the same thing as her, but she would say, "Jackie, shut the fuck up. You do the same thing."
You do the same thing.
So I know, and so it kind of and it can feel hard sometimes, like especially for me being newer in the field, and so like a lot of what she said was just it touched
I'm sure it hit home.
different parts of me. Yeah, just being a band person, like talking to Chris Shepard also was like I had a similar experience because even though he's choral, like he kind of aligned, I think, a lot.
Yeah, well,
with,
and he had such a music ed
Baumanis.
background. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was a really unique and special episode.
Wasn't
I
that
feel.
cool?
They've all
I love
been,
that.
but it was great. I love that.
Thanks for
But
getting her. Good
of
find.
course, I'll get some more that aren't band people necessarily, but
I know.
I know you got to run. So preparing for your concert. We're super excited to see. It's going to be great. I'm sure.
so glad you're coming. Get there early because it's going to be, like I said, it's sold out. It's going to be packed.
Oh.
Get there early and try to sit on the inside aisle so that you can see the tap dancer.
Oh, okay. There's going to be a tap dancer.
Oh, hell yeah.
It didn't say that. Does it say that on the flyer? No.
No.
Oh,
So it'll be a bit of a surprise for people who don't know the work, which is going to be most people,
Great.
which is why we're excited about this
Oh
one.
my God. That's
So-
really, well, Duke Ellington. the
Yeah,
best.
man. Thanks,
Good luck.
Jackie. Thanks, Dr.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody,
Marty.
for
Thanks,
tuning
Dr.
in,
Matt.
and we'll see you at the
Sure.
next one.
Yeah. See you the next one. Sanjeev. Ciao, bellas. Ciao, bellas.
Do widzenia.